There are moments in Formula One when silence becomes deafening, when a single comment from a driver reveals more than an entire press conference, and that's exactly what just happened with Max Verstappen. For years, Red Bull Racing stood as the gold standard in Formula One. Dominance wasn't just expected, it was delivered, ruthlessly, race after race. Verstappen wasn't just driving the best car, he was executing flawlessly. Triple world champion, record-breaking streaks. He made winning look boring, predictable, inevitable. But 2025 changed everything. And now, that unshakable dominance has begun to crack. Hungary was the moment it all came crashing down, not with a dramatic crash, not with an engine failure, but with a quiet, brutal ninth-place finish, and Verstappen, he didn't rage. He didn't deflect. He issued a cold, precise warning to the very team that built his empire. The kind of warning that shakes foundations. You see, this wasn't just any race result. This was Max Verstappen, the man who made Red Bull a modern-day juggernaut, finishing behind both McLarens, a Ferrari, and even midfield runners with no extraordinary circumstances. The post-race message was clear. The car isn't good enough, and the team knows it. Verstappen didn't need to name names. He didn't need to shout, but his tone calm, disappointed, firm told the story. His words didn't just criticize the car. They questioned the team's direction. He subtly pointed toward a deeper dysfunction within Red Bull, a team that once set the benchmark for development, but is now struggling to keep up. And the timing couldn't be worse, because this isn't just one bad weekend. It's part of a growing pattern. At the heart of this is Red Bull's 2025 machine, the RB210 car, that on paper should have continued their dominance. But on track, it's fallen short. Its weaknesses have been slowly but surely exposed. Mid-corner balance issues, inconsistent rear grip, overheating tires, symptoms of a concept that hasn't aged well. And here's the thing, other teams didn't just catch up. They leapfrogged. McLaren, with their aggressive new aero package, is now consistently faster on key tracks. Mercedes, lurking in the background, is preparing for a massive leap in 2026. And Red Bull, they're trying to solve a problem Verstappen saw coming months ago. That's what makes his message so damning, because this isn't a champion warning that his patience is running out. But Verstappen's message wasn't just about the car. It was about Red Bull's internal structure post-Adrian Newey. With Newey's quiet exit, the team lost not just a legendary designer, but a visionary, someone who could steer development when the data didn't have answers. Without him, the technical leadership appears scattered. Updates aren't delivering the expected results. In-race strategy has looked more reactive than proactive. Verstappen, known for his brutal honesty, has been hinting at these cracks for months now. He's not hinting anymore. He's saying it plainly. The RB21 isn't good enough. The direction isn't good enough. And unless something changes, Red Bull's golden era may be behind them. To understand the weight of Verstappen's warning, we have to understand who Max Verstappen is, not just as a driver, but as a force within Red Bull. This isn't a rookie throwing a tantrum or a mid-tier driver blaming the car. This is a generational talent, a three-time world champion, someone who has taken every ounce of performance from every car he's driven. He doesn't make noise unless it matters. And when someone like Max starts publicly questioning the team, it's not just feedback, it's a signal to management, a signal to rivals, a signal to the world. That signal says, fix this, or I'll start looking elsewhere. And don't think for a second that he doesn't have options, because as Max begins to speak out, other teams are listening. McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes are all monitoring Red Bull's unraveling with quiet anticipation. These aren't just competitors, they're sharks. McLaren has gone from midfield contender to legitimate title threat thanks to an aerodynamic overhaul that stunned the paddock. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are pushing each other to new heights, and their car is consistently delivering. They don't need to poach Verstappen, but imagine the psychological blow if they did. Mercedes, meanwhile, is playing a much longer game. They haven't announced their 2026 driver lineup yet, and that's not an accident. George Russell is already in, but Kimi Antonelli, the 17-year-old prodigy, is still being evaluated. And if Verstappen suddenly becomes available, whether in 2026 or even earlier, it changes everything. Toto Wolff isn't just watching, he's planning. But perhaps the most interesting part of this story isn't Red Bull's slump or warning, it's how this fits into the wider chaos unfolding across the grid. Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari was supposed to be the biggest story of 2025. It was a headline writer's dream, the most successful driver in F1 history, joining the most iconic team. But the reality has been anything but smooth. No podiums. In 14 races, a 12th place finish in Hungary, and then came the words no team wants to hear. Hamilton calling himself absolutely useless and suggesting Ferrari might need to replace him. Was it emotion? Yes. Was it raw? Definitely. But it was also revealing. The pressure inside Ferrari is boiling. The politics are returning. And Hamilton, for all his experience, looks like a man caught in a storm he didn't expect. That's what makes Verstappen's position so powerful. While other top drivers are struggling emotionally, politically, or technically, Max is still in control. He's not begging for solutions. He's demanding them. He's not lost. He's angry. And in F1, anger is dangerous when paired with brilliance, especially when the man behind it knows his own worth. Verstappen is forcing Red Bull to look in the mirror, not just at the RB21, not just at the data, but at themselves as a unit, as a philosophy, as a team that may have grown complacent after years of success. He's asking, are we still hungry? Or are we just hoping yesterday's victories will carry us through tomorrow? But let's not pretend that Verstappen's situation is happening in isolation. Because right now, Red Bull is facing pressure from every direction, technical, political, psychological, and worst of all, after years of being the most finely tuned machine in the paddock, the cracks are finally showing. Without Adrian Newey, the mastermind behind their most dominant designs, the team's development philosophy is under serious scrutiny. The RB21 was meant to build on a legacy, but instead, it's revealing how fragile that legacy actually is. The floor geometry isn't delivering expected downforce, mid-corner instability is costing precious tenths, and rival cars are executing upgrades at a faster, more consistent rate. McLaren's floor design has stunned aerodynamicists. Ferrari's raw pace when legal can still cause damage, and Red Bull, they look slow, confused, reactive. Now add the psychological layer. For years, Verstappen and his engineer Giampiero Lambiase have operated like a two-man army. They trusted each other. They could make a car faster through feedback alone. But that relationship is being tested now. When Verstappen gives feedback, and the upgrades don't work or worse, make things worse, that trust begins to fray. And that's when even great teams start to fall apart. The team becomes hesitant. Strategy calls become cautious, and the driver feels like he's on an island. Verstappen isn't there yet, but you can see it in his body language, the way he answers questions, the way he stares into the garage, the way he talks about them instead of we. Meanwhile, the paddock has picked up on the shift. Team principals are whispering, journalists are speculating, and fans, especially the Dutch fans who've followed Verstappen since he was 17, are asking the unthinkable. Could Max actually leave Red Bull? It's not a ridiculous idea. Not anymore. Because, in Formula One, contracts are made to be broken, especially when power is on your side, and Verstappen has all the power. Red Bull knows this. Every decision they make now is under a microscope. Every upgrade package, every race strategy, every interview. Because if Max senses that this team has stopped evolving, that they've started relying on his brilliance rather than enabling it, he won't wait around. This isn't just about lap times. This is about identity. Red Bull built itself on risk-taking, innovation, and aggressive execution. That spirit made them champions. But lately, they look cautious, conservative, safe. That's not who they were when Verstappen won his first title. That's not who they were when they demolished the grid in 2023 and 2024. That's not who Max Verstappen is. And unless that identity returns faster, Bull might be heading toward an end they never saw coming. And while Red Bull scrambles to respond to Verstappen's dissatisfaction, Mercedes is executing a masterclass in psychological warfare. On the surface, it looks like they're stalling, holding back their 2026 lineup, staying quiet on Antonelli's debut. But underneath, it's strategy. Mercedes is watching the chaos. They've seen Hamilton leave. They know Red Bull is under pressure, and they've realized the most powerful move they can make is to wait. Because every day that Mercedes stays silent, they gain leverage. Sponsors remain curious. Rivals stay guessing. And their young prospect, Kimi Antonelli, is protected. From the spotlight, Antonelli is already being groomed behind the scenes. Private tests, simulator sessions, feedback analysis. But Mercedes is doing something very few teams have the discipline to do. They're resisting the hype. They're letting Antonelli grow quietly, without being chewed up by media pressure. And in doing so, they're creating an environment where if Verstappen were ever to look elsewhere, Mercedes would be ready. It's chess, not checkers. And the longer Red Bull continues to falter, the more credible that possibility becomes. Verstappen in a Mercedes. It sounds impossible, and it doesn't. This also ties into Lewis Hamilton's recent behavior. After his Hungary disaster and the cryptic follow the smoke message, speculation exploded. Retirement? Exit. Something bigger. In truth, it was likely a branding move, a business play from the Hamilton empire. But the fact that fans and media even believed it could be a retirement shows how fragile the Ferrari experiment has become. It also underscores how unpredictable this driver market really is. Everyone assumed the next era of F1 was locked in Verstappen at Red Bull, Russell at Mercedes, Hamilton at Ferrari. But now, that map is being redrawn in Re-10, and Verstappen holds the pen. Which brings us back to the central question. What happens if Red Bull doesn't fix this? What if the RB21 can't be saved? What if the team can't regain its edge? Does Max stay loyal? Or does he look for the next project, one that offers not just a title shot, but a legacy reset? The answer may not come this season, but the seeds are being planted now. And once a driver starts imagining life elsewhere, it's almost impossible to unimagine it. Max Verstappen's warning wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was calculated. And that's what makes it terrifying. Because when a driver like Max, who has proven everything, won everything, and carried a team on his back, starts sounding the alarm, you listen, not because he's angry, but because he's right. Red Bull has slipped. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, but subtly, quietly, dangerously. The development lead is gone. The rivals are faster. The headlines are shifting. And Verstappen, he's no longer smiling. He's watching, measuring, deciding. We often talk about driver legacies in F1. How a car defines a career. How a team defines a decade. Verstappen built his legend with Red Bull, but legends don't wait forever. He doesn't want to become the next Hamilton at Ferrari, stuck in a project that can't deliver. He doesn't want to be Alonso in the wilderness. He wants to win. Every year, everywhere. And if Red Bull can't give him that, he will find someone who will. And the terrifying part? He'll take that winning DNA with him. So Red Bull now faces its most important test not on the track, but in the factory, in the meeting rooms, and in how they respond to their star driver. Will they double down on development? Will they restore the aggressive spirit that made them great? Or will they try to weather the storm with hope and loyalty? Because if they choose the latter, they're not just risking the championship. They're risking Max Verstappen himself, and that would change Formula One forever. If you found this breakdown compelling, insightful, or just brutally honest, subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Do you think Verstappen is serious? Or is this just pressure tactics? And if he leaves Red Bull, where should he go next? Remember, this isn't just racing. This is politics, pressure, and power, all disguised as lap times. And Verstappen, he's not playing games anymore.